So on this day of the solar year, 23 years ago, I saw this turtle right here in a pet store and bought him. I took him home and introduced him to Tammy. And now today I've had him 23 years. Defensive creatures they are. Quiet critters when they're not scratching at things or building things. Mysterious in their language. They live a long time if nothing happens to them other than aging. And they endure pretty well. So you see why I would have chosen such critters as companions. Familiars, if you will. And 18 years ago, on this same self day, in the late afternoon, I was performing ritual prayers out of a book because I hadn't memorized it. And in this, I had an experience. More like after it. Because, well, I had experience in it too, right? And I asked, I wanted to be on the right path. And I had previously read the Scripture of this age 3 times in translation. And after this experience, I decided to learn how to read the original language of such. And each time, so I skimmed through once and I read through, I accepted some and was rather impressed and talked to people, and sadomasochism and racism wasn't for me, and I didn't know it wasn't part of the path, so I kind of set it aside for a few years, but I kept hearing more, and eventually I wanted to find out more and read more thoroughly. And so I read a translation, and I read that translation again, and I read that translation a handful of times before getting another one. But by that time, I was reading it with the original language. But after this act of ritual prayer, as is prescribed in this age, the experience I had that I was the spirit soul. Now, I believed I had a soul. Probably my whole life, I believed that I had a soul or was a soul, but I just didn't know. And knowing is different than believing, right? Knowing is different than having faith. Now, if you believe in the right things, that's fine. If you have faith in the right things, that's fine. But there I was, at Montlometh Falls, in Oregon, leaving enough space to pass on the trail, on the ground, hands lifted, and I knew I was a soul. And once you encounter yourself as soul, and each layer of me accepted, my body had already known that there wasn't going to be any oppression by accepting the path that I am on. My mind hadn't found any contradictions or scientific errors or anything like that, that I figured that if there was a religion revealed by God, they wouldn't have these problems. And I still haven't found these problems. And my will, my emotions and everything, they just accepted this path. Now, because I had the experience that I can't deny and can't turn back, and not just by being stubborn, I know. And because I know certain things, I can't, there's plenty of stuff I don't know. But I know I'm soul, and I know as soul I accepted it as the truth. And have since had other experiences confirming this international message. And there I am. And there is this turtle 23 years later after getting him. I think this is a different cage. Actually, it may be the same exact cage. I have pictures, I could verify that, but tummy. The ornate box turtle. A lot of humans wouldn't survive what he's been through, but he's been through moves and falls and getting a claw ripped out, which grew back. And I think he wants me to feed him, or he doesn't know exactly what's going on with this. So I'm going to stop bothering this turtle now, but ever since the other turtle died, it was, he hasn't been quite the same. But when for almost 23 years you live with someone, you can't necessarily get over it in a few days, now can you? Especially if you have to live in the same place.